There's a ton of good news about Hogwarts Legacy, including more info on the game's Transmog system, the fact that we can tweak many settings and UI elements, an update on the game's difficulty modes, and an interesting detail from a new trailer that hints at our character going undercover as the school's headmaster. So we'll go over all of that and more in this video. If you're excited for the game and enjoy the content here on the channel, then leave a like to help us out, subscribe for way more Hogwarts videos, and let's go. By the way, we are doing a giveaway for the Digital Deluxe Edition of the game for a platform of your choice. If you want to participate, there's a link in the pinned comment, and remember that you have to be a subscriber of the channel to enter. Best of luck, and we will reach out to the winner before launch. So like I hinted at in the intro, it seems clear that at one point of the game we're going to disguise ourselves as the school's headmaster, Phineas Nigellus Black, presumably by using a Polyjuice potion. Which, in case you didn't know, is a very complicated potion to brew that allows a witch or wizard to take the form of someone else. Shout out to Reddit user Kralik Gamer for spotting this, but in one of the shots of actor Simon Pegg reading his lines, we can see part of the script, and very interesting here is that the character talking is listed as Black, and then in parentheses, Ava in disguise. Ava here likely being an abbreviation of Avatar, and no, that doesn't mean the blue people or an airbender, that means it's our character doing the talking. So likely, this is a scene where we've taken a Polyjuice potion or some other means of magical disguise to pretend that we are Headmaster Black. Now the biggest question is of course to what end, and I actually have an idea about that. I assume you remember that magical book at the end of the most recent gameplay showcase, which we also discussed in a previous video that I will link to in the video description. We're pretty sure that book is located in the Headmaster's study, and considering that Phineas Black absolutely disdains his students, there is no way he'd let a 50-year touch what is potentially a very important magical artifact. So the only logical way for us to get it then is to disguise ourselves as the headmaster, get access to his study, and then take the book. I'm still very suspicious of Black turning out to be a major villain, by the way, and while we don't have any more information on that, we did get a tidbit of info on Victor Rookwood, another one of the game's major antagonists. We know very little about him apart from the fact that he has an excellent sense of style, but in some recently released preview images from the game's official art book, we do learn about some of the things he's been up to. In the bio for another character who is actually the proprietress for the popular inn and pub The Three Broomsticks, we can read that she has no problem standing up to the local foes like Victor Rookwood, who tried to extort Hogsmeade's business for protection. So it kind of sounds like Rookwood is some sort of wizard mobster or crime lord bullying Hogsmeade visitors out of their money under the guise of protecting them. Which would also mean that Hogsmeade is not just a nice place for us to shop, but we might come across some potentially dangerous witches or wizards in some of the back alleys. And I also think that makes it likely that the troll attack in Hogsmeade we saw during the state of play is probably also Rookwood's doing. And while we've talked a lot about gameplay and story details in the past few videos, there's also a lot of info on the game's different graphics modes and tweakable settings that we haven't covered yet. From this post on Portkeys forums, we've learned that on current gen consoles the game will have multiple graphical modes of play, the most common of which are Fidelity mode, which targets 30 FPS, and Performance mode, which targets 60 FPS. Interesting that they note multiple modes of play, with the expected Fidelity and Performance mode only listed as the most common ones. So maybe there will be a best of both worlds 40 FPS mode like Horizon Forbidden West, Spider-Man and The Last of Us Part 1 had. Also, if your monitor supports it, you can turn on variable refresh rates on PS5 and Xbox Series X and S for even higher frame rates. There's also some important updates for if you're playing on PC. The game's requirements for minimum, recommended, ultra and ultra 4K graphics have been posted on the game's official Twitter, which we'll link to in the video description if you want to check them out for yourself. On top of that, the WB Twitter support noted that the game will support ultra-wide displays, and it will also be Steam Deck verified on launch. So a lot of boxes being ticked here, which is always nice to see. There will also be some important customization for your in-game HUD, with the biggest thing being damage numbers. The game support Twitter notes that there are numerous UI settings that you can toggle to adjust the amount of features shown on screen, which includes damage numbers. So if you don't care about damage numbers and want to fully immerse yourself in the wizarding world, you can completely turn them off. After Games asked if the same could be done for the white enemy outlines that show our current target, and while the answer to this is a bit vague, it does sound like this will also be an option we can turn on and off. We also got some interesting information about how the game will handle your save files, but first there's more good news about the game's Transmog system. We got more details on how the Transmog system is going to work thanks to the FAQ FAQ page for claiming in-game rewards. In case you didn't know, you can link your Harry Potter fan club account with your Warner Bros. Games account in order to receive special house robes and a mask. And the FAQ page tells us how to access these items through the game's Transmog system. It will be accessible very early in the game, as the FAQ lists you'll find your Beaked Skull Mask and House Fanatic robe in your inventory on your first day at Hogwarts, just after completing the introduction sequence of Hogwarts Legacy, where you receive your field guide and access to the gear screen. And from that point, it's just as easy as going over to the gear section, click the change appearance button on the desired category of clothing, and you can pick your favorite look. The only thing the post doesn't mention is if there's any cost tied to changing the look on an item, but at the very least it seems like this feature is just always accessible from our pause menu. But I think the most important update is on the game's save system, which is actually quite clever. Each player will have 4 character slots, meaning that you can play through the game as a student of Gryffindor, Slytherin, Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw without having to worry about deleting saves. Which is something that you actually need in order to get all trophies or achievements, as there is one for reaching a location known as the map room as a student of each house. And then on top of that, each character has 5 auto and 10 manual save slots. So quite a lot to play around with, so you can return to your favorite story missions or make a save at the start of every season so you can always come back to them. Because both the outside environments and the school's decorations will change depending on what time of year it is in the story. Unfortunately, there won't be any form of cross progression, meaning you can't carry over saves between different platforms, which was also confirmed by the Warner Bros. Support account. We also got a ton of new information from a post concerning the game's accessibility features. Under the motor category, you can see that aiming can be alternated between hold and toggle, which means there is a manual aim option. So far, most spells seem to automatically snap to their target, but this option implies we can also manually aim and shoot our spells. Maybe this only works outside of combat to target specific parts of a puzzle, or maybe we can become a literal spell sniper and take out enemies from range. A lot of spells actually seem pretty well suited for this, and we actually made a video on all spells that are confirmed for the game so far, so I'll leave a link to that one in the video description. And one added benefit if you're playing on PS5 is that you're able to control your broom or flying mount with the controller's motion sensor, which seems like a lot of fun to try out. But even more interesting is the update we got on the game's difficulty settings. We already know there are going to be 4 of them: story, easy, normal and hard. And now the accessibility FAQ notes that at the story difficulty, spell learning minigames requiring precise movement cannot fail and puzzles will not be time sensitive. Which is interesting because we didn't know that there are spell learning minigames that you can theoretically fail. I'm assuming you can retry them after if you play on higher difficulties, but some spells will require you to complete some kind of challenge before you get them, which is actually pretty cool. And there are also time sensitive puzzles in the game which will have their time limits removed if you are playing on the story difficulty. And considering that difficulty can be changed at any time during normal gameplay, if you ever get stuck on one of those, just change the difficulty to story and the time limit is no longer an issue. When we learn more about the game, we will of course let you know here. So subscribe to make sure you don't miss the next Hogwarts video, leave a like if you enjoyed this one, and if you want, you can watch our previous video where we go over some very exciting leaked info. I'll see you in the next one, goodbye.